Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Dadachi Muni, the son of Atharva, thus resolved to give his body to the service of the demigods. He placed himself, the spirit soul, at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in this way gave up his gross material body made of 5 elements. Okay, so that's a real complete
Sacrifice.
complete giving his body for the demigods. Purport. As indicated here by the words Hare Bhagavati Brahmani Atmanam Sanayan, Dadachi placed himself as spirit soul at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this regard, one may refer to the incident of Dhritarashtra's leaving his body, as described in the first canto Srimad Bhagavatam, 113.55. Dhritarashtra analytically divided his gross material body into 5 different elements, of which it was made: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and distributed them to the different reservoirs of these elements. In other words, he merged his 5 elements into the original Mahatattva. Mahatattva is the sum total of all spiritual, not spiritual, but of all material elements. By identifying his material conception of life, he gradually separated his spirit soul from material connections and placed himself at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example given in this connection is that when an earthen pot is broken, the small portions of the sky within the pot is united with the large sky outside the pot. Mayavadi philosophers misunderstand this description of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, Sri Ramanuja Swami, in his book Vedanta Tattva Sara, has described that this merging of the soul means that after separating himself from the material body made of 8 elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, false ego, and mind, and intelligence, the individual soul engages himself in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his eternal form. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiraditurga Sarva Karma Karma. The material cause of the material elements absorbs the material body, and the spiritual soul assumes its original position. As described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivera Swarupa Haya Krishna Nityadasa. The constitutional position of the living entity is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. When one overcomes the material body through cultivation of spiritual knowledge and devotional service, one can revive his own position and thus engage in the service of the Lord. Text number 12. Dadachi Muni controlled his senses, life force, mind, and intelligence, and became absorbed in trance. Thus he cut all his material bonds. He could not perceive how his material body became separated from itself. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 8.5, Antakali chamam eva smaram mukva kalevaram yas prayati sa madbhavam yati nasti atra samsaya. Whoever, at the time of death, quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Of course, one must practice before one is overcome by death. But the perfect yogi, namely the devotee, dies in trance, thinking of Krishna. That's the way to die. He does not feel his material body being separated from his soul. The soul is immediately transferred to the spiritual world. Jakvadeham punarjanma naiti mam eti. The soul does not enter the womb of a material mother again, but is transferred back home, back to Godhead. This yoga, Bhakti Yoga, is the highest yoga system as explained by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 6.47. Yoginam apisarve sam mad gatanantaratma shadavam bhajate yomam samayukta tamomata. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga. Herein, the Narmada does not mean the Narmada River in India. The 5 sacred rivers in India, Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, Kaveri, and Krishna, are all celestial. Like the Ganges River, the Narmada River also flows in the higher planetary systems. The battle between the demigods and the demons took place in the higher planets, not on the earth. The words Partame Yoge mean in the beginning of the first millennium, that is to say, in the beginning of the Vaivasvata Manvantara, in one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus who each live for 71 million millenniums. Millenniums. The 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, constitute one millennium. We are presently in the Manvantara Vaivasvata Manu, who is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavam aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha. We are now in the 28th millennium of Vaivasvata Manu, but this fight took place in the beginning of Vaivasvata Manu's first millennium. One can historically calculate how long ago the battle took place, since each millennium consists of 4,300,000 years. And we are now in the 28th millennium, some 120,400,000 years have passed since the battle took place on the bank of the river Narmada. Wow.
20 million.
400,000 years.
120 million. 400.
I'm sorry, 120,400,000 years. Okay. Text 17 and 18. O king, when all the asuras came onto the battlefield, headed by Vritrasura, They saw King Indra carrying the thunderbolt and surrounded by the Rudras, Vasus, Adityas, Aswini Kumaras, Pitas, Vanis, Maruts, Ribus, Sadyas, and Vishvadevas. Surrounded by his company, Indra shone so brightly that his effulgence was intolerable to the demons. Okay. Text number 19 and 22. Many hundreds and thousands of demons, demigods, yakshas, rakshasas, or man-eaters, and others, headed by Sumali and Mali, resisted the armies of King Indra, which even death personified cannot easily overcome. Okay. Among the demons were Namuchi, Sambara, Anarva, Dvimurda, Rishabha, Asura, Hayagriva, Sankusira, Viprachita, Ayomukha, Puloma, Vishwaparva, Praheti, Heti, and Ukkale. Roaring tumultuously and fearlessly like lions, these invincible demons, all dressed in golden ornaments, gave pain to the demigods with weapons like clubs, bludgeons, arrows, barbed darts, mallets, and lances. Text 23. Armed with lances, tridents, axes, swords, and other weapons like Sataginis and Ushundis, the demons attacked from different directions and scattered all the chiefs of the demigod armies. As the stars in the sky cannot be seen when covered by dense clouds, the demigods, being completely covered by networks of arrows falling upon them one after another, could not be seen. Text 25. The showers of various weapons and arrows released to kill the soldiers of the demigods did not reach them because the demigods, acting quickly, cut the weapons into thousands of pieces in the sky. Text 26. As their weapons and mantras decreased, the demons began showering mountain peaks, trees, and stones upon the demigod soldiers. But the demigods were so powerful and expert that they nullified all these weapons by breaking them to pieces in the sky as before. Okay, text number 27. When the soldiers of the demons, commanded by Vitrasura, saw that the soldiers of King Indra were quite well, having not been injured at all by their volleys of weapons, not even by trees, stones, and mountain peaks, the demons were very much afraid. Good. Text 28. When insignificant persons use rough words to cast false, angry accusations against saintly persons, their fruitless words do not disturb the great personalities. Similarly, all the efforts of the demons against the demigods, who were favorably situated under the protection of Krishna, were futile. Purport. There is a Bengali saying that if a vulture curses a cow to die, the curse will not be effective. Similarly, accusations made by demoniac persons against devotees of Krishna cannot have any effect. Good news. The demigods are devotees of Lord Krishna, and therefore the curses of the demons are futile. Wow. Good to know that. Text 29. The Asuras, who are never devotees of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, lost their pride in fighting when they found all their endeavors futile. Leaving aside their leader, even in the very beginning of the fight, they decided to flee because all their prowess had been taken away by the enemy. Text number 30. Seeing his army broken, and all the Asuras, even those known as great heroes, fleeing the battlefield out of intense fear, Vitrasura, who was truly a great-minded hero, smiled and spoke the following words. Well, Vitrasura is a real soldier. According to his position and the time and circumstances, Vitrasura, the hero among heroes, spoke words that were much to be appreciated by thoughtful men. He called to the heroes of the demons, O Viprachiti, O Namusi.
Muchi.
I'm sorry, Namuchi, okay. O Puloma, Pumulomal, O Maya, O Anarva, O Sambara, please hear me and do not flee. Text 32. Vitrasura said, all living entities who have taken birth in this material world must die. Surely no one in this world has found any means to be saved from death. Even Providence has not provided a means to escape it. Under the circumstances, death being inevitable, if one can gain promotion to the higher planetary systems and be always celebrated here by dying a suitable death, what man will not accept such a glorious death? Interesting statement. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. If by dying one can be elevated to the higher planetary system and be ever famous after his death, who is so foolish that he will refuse such a glorious death? Similar advice was also given by Krishna to Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, the Lord said, do not desist from fighting. If you gain victory in the fight, you will enjoy a kingdom. And even if you die, you will be elevated to the heavenly planets. Everyone should be ready to die while performing glorious deeds. A glorious person is not meant to meet death like cats and dogs. Text 33. See, now these are real Kshatriyas. They're not afraid to die, but they're going to fight to the death. That is a Kshatriya. Text 33. There are two ways to meet a glorious death, and both are very rare. One is to die after performing mystic yoga, especially bhakti yoga. by which one can control the mind and living force and die absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not everybody can do that. The second is to die on the battlefield, leading the army and never showing one's back, meaning never running away. These two kinds of deaths are recommended in the Shastra as glorious. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Battle Between the Demigods and Vitrasura. Chapter 11, Transcendental Qualities of Vitrasura. Well, you see, he is an asura, he is a demon, but yet he's actually a devotee. Let's see what it says. This chapter describes Vitrasura's great qualities. You see, he's a demon, but actually he's not. He's actually a devotee. When the prominent commanders of the demons fled, not hearing Vitrasura's advice, Vitrasura condemned them all as cowards. Yeah, they all left him alone on the battlefield. Speaking very bravely, he stood alone to face the demigods. When the demigods saw Vitrasura's attitude, they were so afraid that they practically fainted, and Vitrasura began trampling them down. Unable to tolerate this, Indra, the king of the demigods, threw his club at Vitrasura, but Vitrasura was such a great hero that he easily caught the club with his left hand and used it to beat Indra's elephant. Oh, that poor elephant. That's not nice. Struck by the blow of Vitrasura, the elephant was pushed back 14 yards and fell with Indra on its back. It's a shock for Indra. King Indra had first accepted Visvarupa as his priest and thereafter killed him. That's not nice. Reminding Indra of his heinous activities, Vitrasura said, if one is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, and depends on Lord Vishnu in every respect, then victory, opulence, and peace of mind are all inevitably available. Okay, that's a nice statement. Such a person has nothing for which to aspire in the three worlds. Yeah, the higher planets, the middle planets, and the lower planets. The Supreme Lord is so kind that he especially favors such a devotee by not giving him opulence that will hamper his devotional service. Well, yeah, that's a fact. You know, when someone becomes addicted to opulence, meaning unabashed, meaning a sense gratification, they lose their opulence. Therefore, I wish to give up everything for the service of the Lord. I wish always to chant the glories of the Lord and engage in his service. Let me become unattached to my worldly family and make friendships with the devotees of the Lord. I do not desire to be promoted to the higher planetary systems, even to Dhruvaloka or Brahmaloka, nor do I desire an unconquerable position within this material world. I have no need for such things. Wow, that's a statement of a devotee who is not at all enamored by any promise of sense gratification. Text 1. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O King Vitrasura, the commander-in-chief of the demons, advised his lieutenants in the principles of religion. But the cowardly demoniac commanders, intent upon fleeing the battlefield, were not so disturbed by fear that they could not accept his words. Well, because they're chickens. They're afraid. They don't understand what is the truth. Text 2 and 3. O King Parikshit, the demigods, taking advantage of a favorable opportunity presented by time, attacked the army of the demons from the rear and began driving away the demoniac soldiers, scattering them here and there as if their army had no leader. Seeing the pitiable condition of his soldiers, Vritrasura, the best of the Asuras, who was called Indrasatru, that means, I think, the killer of Indra. The enemy of Indra, was very much aggrieved. Unable to tolerate such reverses, he stopped and forcibly rebuked the demigods, speaking the following words in an angry mood. You see now, real judges never run away. They don't turn their backs to the other warriors and run away. They always die facing their enemies. But here we see that these demigods are actually they are actually running away. These demons, they're running away. Yeah. Oh, demigods, these demoniac soldiers have taken birth uselessly indeed. They have come from the bodies of their mothers exactly like stool. What is the benefit of killing such enemies from behind while they are running in fear? Yeah, Kshatriya never runs away from the battlefield. The Kshatriya will either die on the battlefield or be, you know,
Victorious.
he will be victorious. There's no question of running away from the battlefield. One who considers himself a hero should not kill an enemy who is afraid of losing his life. Wow. Such killing is never glorious, nor can it promote one to the heavenly planets. Yeah, okay. If someone tries to run away, that means they're a coward. And killing a coward is not any great, let's say, achievement. You want to fight with someone who is willing to die, or be victorious. You don't want to fight with someone who runs away. Purport: Vitrasura rebuked both the demigods and the demoniac soldiers because the demons were running in fear of their lives and the demigods were killing them from behind. The actions of both were abominable. When a fight takes place, the opposing parties must be prepared to fight like heroes. That means once they get into the battlefield, they're not going to run away. They're either going to be victorious or they're going to die. But there's no question of running away. A hero never runs from the field of battle. There it is, right there. He always fights face to face, determined to gain victory or lay down his life in the fight. That is heroic. Killing an enemy from behind is also inglorious. Yeah, if someone's running away like a chicken, killing them is not really uh, what you would call heroic. When an enemy turns his back and runs in fear of his life, he should not be killed. This is the etiquette of military science. Nobody follows that anymore. Vritrasura insulted the demoniac soldiers by comparing them to the stool of their mothers. Whoa. Both stool and a cowardly son come from the abdomen of the mother, and Vritrasura said that there is no difference between them. A similar comparison was given by Tsuchidasa, who commented that a son and urine both come from the same channel. Yeah. Uh, uh, in other words, uh, from
The womb of mother.
yeah, from the urine.
Mm.
In other words, semen and urine both come from the genitals, but semen produces a child, whereas urine produces nothing. Therefore, if a child is neither a hero nor a devotee, he is not a son by urine.
But urine.
Huh?
He is not a son, but urine.
Okay, I'm sorry. He is not a son but urine. Exactly right. Okay, sorry. Similarly, Chanaka Pandita also says, Korita putrena jatena yona vidman na dharmika kanena chaksusa kimva chaksu vidaiva kevalam. What is the use of a son who is neither glorious nor devoted to the Lord? Such a son is like a blind eye, which simply gives pain, but cannot help one see. Okay, text number 5. O insignificant demigods, if you truly have faith in your heroism, if you have patience in the cores of your heart, cores, cores, and if you are not ambitious for sense gratification, please stand before me for a moment. Rebuking the demigods, Vajrasura challenged, O demigods, if you are actually heroes, stand before me now and try to show your prowess, your prowess or your fame and your strength. If you do not wish to fight, if you are afraid of losing your lives, I shall not kill you. For unlike you, I am not so evil minded as to kill persons who are neither heroic nor willing to fight. If you have faith in your heroism, please stand before me. Yeah, when someone is on a battlefield, he does not run away. Either he's going to kill the adversaries or he's going to be killed. He doesn't run away like a chicken. Text 6. Sukadeva Goswami said, Vritrasura, the angry and most powerful hero, terrified the demigods with his stout and strongly built body. When he roared with a resounding voice, nearly all living entities fainted. When all the demigods heard Vritrasura's tumultuous roar, which resembled that of a lion, they fainted and fell to the ground as if struck by thunderbolts. Oh, so the battle is over now. They're not even going to fight. As the demigods close their eyes in fear, Vitrasura, taking up the trident and making the earth tremble with his great strength, trampled the demigods beneath his feet on the battlefield the way a mad elephant tramples hollow bamboos in the forest.
Mhm.
They're completely defeated. Seeing Vitrasura's disposition, Indra, the king of heroes, became intolerant and threw at him one of his great clubs, which are extremely difficult to counteract. However, as the club flew towards him, Vitrasura easily caught it with his left hand, not even his right hand. That means it's nothing. No, no fear at all and no real damage. Text 10. O Parikshit, the powerful Vitrasura, the enemy of King Indra, angrily struck the head of Indra's elephant. Well, that's not nice. With that club, making a tumultuous sound on the battlefield. For this heroic deed, the soldiers on both sides glorified him. Yeah, but that's not nice for the elephant.
Mhm.
An elephant's not an enemy. Yeah. Text 11. Struck with the club by Vitrasura, like a mountain struck by a thunderbolt, the elephant Airavata, feeling great pain and spitting blood from his broken mouth, was pushed back 14 yards. In great distress, the elephant fell with Indra on its back. Terrible. Of course, the elephant is not dead, but he is seriously injured. When he saw Indra's carrier elephant thus fatigued and injured, and when he saw Indra morose because his carrier had been harmed in this way and that way, the great soul Vitrasura, following religious principles, yeah, refrained from again striking Indra with the club. Okay, so that means he's a gentleman. He's not a rogue. Taking this opportunity, Indra touched the elephant with his nectar producing hand, thus relieving the animal's pain and curing its injuries. Then the elephant and Indra both stood silent. Ah. Text 13. O king, when the great hero Vritrasura saw Indra, his enemy, the killer of his brother, standing before him with the thunderbolt in his hand, desiring to fight, Vritrasura remembered how Indra had cruelly killed his brother. Thinking of Indra's sinful activities, he became mad with lamentation and forgetfulness. Laughing sarcastically, he spoke as follows. Okay, this is going on the battlefield.
Mm.
Sri Vitrasura said,
Free.
Sri, yeah. He who has killed a Brahmana, he who has killed his spiritual master, indeed, he who has killed my brother is now, by good fortune, standing before me face to face as my enemy. O most abominable one, when I pierce your stone-like heart with my trident, I shall be freed from my debt to my brother. It's really heroic statements here. Text 15. Only for the sake of living in the heavenly planets, you killed my elder brother, a self-realized, sinless, qualified Brahmana who had been appointed your chief priest. He was your spiritual master, but although you entrusted him with the performance of your sacrifice, you later mercilessly severed his heads from his body the way one butchers an animal. Yeah, that's because the demigods were killed their priest after the priest saved them from being killed. And then they went and killed their priest who was who was saving them. Indra, you are bereft of all shame, mercy, glory, and good fortune. Deprived of these good qualities by the reactions of your fruitive activities, you are to be condemned even by the man-eaters, Rakshasas. And that means the Rakshasas won't even eat him because he's so, dastardly, a coward and a bad person. Now I shall pierce your body with my trident, and after you die with great pain, even fire will not touch you. Only the vultures will eat your body. Whoa, that's a terrible statement. Terrible. Text 17. You are naturally cruel. If the other demigod, unaware of my prowess, follow you by attacking me with raised weapons, I shall sever their heads with this sharp trident. With those heads, I shall perform a sacrifice to Bhairava and the other leaders of the ghosts, along with their hordes. Okay. But if in this battle you cut off my head with your thunderbolt and kill my soldiers, O Indra, O great hero, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to other living entities such as jackals and vultures. I shall thus be relieved of my obligations to the reactions of my karma, and my fortune will be to receive the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees like Narada Muni. Now, these are the statements of a real Kshatriya. He's not afraid of dying. And he is not going to run away from the battlefield. Purport. Shri Narottam Das Thakur sings, E Chaya Gosani Yara Vui Taradas Tan Sabara Pada Renu Mora Panchata Rasa. I am a servant of the six Goswamis, and the dust of their lotus feet provides my 5 kinds of food. A Vaishnava always desires the dust of the lotus feet of previous acharyas and Vaishnavas. Vritrasura was certain that he would be killed in the battle with Indra, because this was the desire of Lord Vishnu. He was prepared for death because he knew that after his death, he was destined to return home back to Godhead. Okay, so even though Vitrasura is an asura, he's supposed to be a demon, but actually is a devotee. This is a great destination, and it is achieved by the grace of a Vaishnava. Shadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Payeche Keva. No one has ever gone back to Godhead without being favored by a Vaishnava. In this verse, therefore, we find the words Mana Srinyanam Pada Raja Prapatsye. I shall receive the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees. The word Manas Vinam refers to great devotees who always think of Krishna. They are always peaceful, thinking of Krishna, and therefore they are called Dhira. The best example of such a devotee is Narada Muni. If one receives the dust of the lotus feet of a Manasri, a great devotee, he certainly returns home back to Godhead. Text 19. O king, the demigods, since I, your enemy, am standing before you, why don't you hurl your thunderbolt at me? Although your attack upon me with your club was certainly useless, like a request of money from a miser. Yeah, you don't get it. The thunderbolts you carry will not be useless. You need to have no doubts about this. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When King Indra threw his club at Vitrasura caught it in his left hand and retaliated by using it to strike the head of Indra's elephant. That's not nice. Thus, Indra's attack was a disastrous failure. Indeed, Indra's elephant was injured and thrown back 14 yards. Therefore, even though Indra stood with the thunderbolt to hurl against the Vitrasura, he was doubtful, thinking that the thunderbolt might also fail. Vitrasura, however, being a Vaishnava, assured Indra that the thunderbolt would not fail, for Vitrasura knew that it had been prepared in accordance with the instructions of Lord Vishnu. Although Indra had doubts because he could not understand that Lord Vishnu's order never fails, Vitrasura understood Lord Vishnu's purpose. Vitrasura was eager to be killed by the thunderbolt manufactured according to Lord Vishnu's instructions, because he was sure that he would thus return home back to Godhead. He was simply waiting for the opportunity of the thunderbolts being released. In effect, therefore, Vitrasura told Indra, if you want to kill me, since I am your enemy, take this opportunity, kill me. You will gain victory, and I shall go back to Godhead. Your deed will be equally beneficial for both of us. Do it immediately. Wow, what a real Kshatriya Vitrasura is. Not afraid at all. Text 20. O Indra, king of heaven, the thunderbolt you carry to kill me has been empowered by the prowess of Lord Vishnu and the strength of Dadachi's austerities. Since you have come here to kill me in accordance with the Lord Vishnu's order, there is no doubt that I shall be killed by the release of your thunderbolt. Lord Vishnu has sided with you. Therefore, your victory, opulence, and all good qualities are assured. Purport. Vitrasura not only assured King Indra that the thunderbolt was invincible, but also encouraged Indra to use it against him as soon as possible. Vitrasura was eager to die with the stroke of the thunderbolt sent by Lord Vishnu, so that he could immediately return home back to Godhead. By hurling the thunderbolt, Indra would gain victory and enjoy the heavenly planets remaining in the material world for repeated birth and death. That's not a good deal. Indra wanted to gain victory over Ritrasura and thereby become happy, but that would not at all be happiness. Yes, that's a fact. You're still in the material world. The heavenly planets are just below Brahmaloka, but as stated by the Supreme Lord Krishna, Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Avartana Virgina. Even if one achieves Brahmaloka, he must still fall to the lower planetary systems again and again. However, if one goes back to Godhead, he never returns to this material world. By killing Vitrasura, Indra would not actually, Indra would not actually gain. He would remain in the material world. Vitrasura, however, would go to the spiritual world. Therefore, victory was destined for Vitrasura, not for Indra. Yeah, so Indra might think he's the conqueror, but actually, Vitrasura is the one that is benefited because he's going to go back to Godhead. But Indra is going to stay in the material world to suffer. Text 21. By the force of your thunderbolt, I shall be freed from material bondage and shall give up this body and this world of material desires, fixing my mind upon the lotus feet of Lord Sankarsana. I shall attain the destination of such great sages as Narada Muni, just as Lord Sankarsana has said. Purport. The words Aham Samadaya Mana indicate that the most important duty at the time of death is to concentrate one's mind. Yeah, concentrated on Krishna. If one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, Vishnu, Sankarsana, or any Vishnu Murti, his life will be successful. To be killed while fixing his mind at the lotus feet of Sankarsana, Vitrasura asked Indra to release his Vajra, or thunderbolt. He was destined to be killed by the thunderbolt given by Lord Vishnu. There was no question of its being baffled. Therefore, Vitrasura requested Indra to release the thunderbolt immediately, and he prepared himself by fixing his mind at the lotus feet of Krishna. Well, you see, Vitrasura, although he's supposed to be an asura, but actually he's a devotee. A devotee is always ready to give up his material body, which is just described herein as gramya patha, the rope of material attachment. The body is not at all good. It is simply a cause of bondage to the material world. Unfortunately, even though the body is destined for destruction, fools and rascals invest all their faith in the body and are never eager to return home back to Godhead. You see, now these are all Kshatriyas. A real Kshatriya is not afraid of dying. In fact, it's glorious.
Mhm.
But if he turns his back to the enemy or the other Kshatriyas who are fighting against him and starts running away, and then is killed with his back to the other soldiers, that means it's very, very disgusting because he's a coward. He did not fight. He turned his back and ran away in fear.
But is it also wrong on the person on the other side not you should not be killing for a person who's
Running away.
running away, right? I mean, that's also not following the
Yeah.
rules of the war.
Yes. Persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always think of his lotus feet are accepted and recognized by the Lord as his own personal assistants or servants. Let me read that again. Persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always think of his lotus feet as are accepted and recognized by the Lord as his own personal assistants or servants. The Lord never bestows upon such servants the brilliant opulences of the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems of this material world. Yeah, because the personality Godhead does not want his devotees to be attached to anything mundane. When one possesses material opulence in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increase his enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus, one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. Well, we can see here that Vitrasura was not afraid by Indra's thunderbolt, and actually Vitrasura encouraged Indra to use it against him as soon as possible because he wants to go back to Godhead. Right? He wasn't afraid to die. Purport. A devotee surrenders unto me. As devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. Both Indra and Vitrasura were certainly devotees of the Lord. Although Indra took instructions from Vishnu to kill Vitrasura, the Lord was actually more favorable to Vitrasura because after being killed by Indra's thunderbolt, Vitrasura would go back to Godhead. It's a wonderful way to see things. Whereas the victorious Indra would rot in this material world. Because both of them were devotees, the Lord awarded them the respective benedictions they wanted. Vitrasura never wanted material possessions, for he knew very well the nature of such possessions. To accumulate material possessions, one must labor very hard, and when he gets them, he creates many enemies, because this material world is always full of rivalry. If one becomes rich, his friends or relatives are envious. For Ekanta Bhaktas, unalloyed devotees, Krishna therefore never provides material possessions. See, this is a great statement here. A devotee sometimes needs some material possessions for preaching, but the possessions of a preacher are not like those of a karmi. A karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but those of a devotee are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to facilitate his devotional activities. Because a devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord. The possessions of a devotee are not to be compared to those of a karmi. It's very true. So I think our time is up.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a good place to stop, because the takeaway for today is exactly what we just read. A karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but those of a devotee are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to facilitate his devotional activities. Because a devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord. The possessions of a devotee are not to be compared to those of a army. This is our takeaway for today and forever also. It's a wonderful statement. In other words, let me read it again. A devotee sometimes needs some material possessions for preaching, but the possessions of a preacher are not like those of a karmi. A karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but those of a devotee are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to facilitate his devotional activity. Because a devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord, the possessions of a devotee are not to be compared to those of a karma. Beautiful, wonderful statements. Yeah. So we'll stop right there on that very beautiful statement and understand how glorious a genuine devotee is. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hari Prabhu.
And the story of Vritasura is very interesting, Guru Maharaj.
Yes, it is.
Right. So here in this case, like a devotee, Dadachi's life was sacrificed to make a weapon, and devotee used the weapon, and devotee was killed. So getting me into a deeper thinking here.
What's the last thing you said?
Devotee was killed.
Yeah. But that
Right,
was
so
glorious.
this is,
Glorious.
yeah, it is glorious. It is glorious, but how Krishna's leelas are working is triggering deeper thinking for me here, because he's a by the verse that you are reading today, Vritasura sounds very genuine devotee.
Well,
Right?
notice his name is Vitrasura. He's an
Yes.
Asura, but actually
Yeah.
devotee.
Yeah. That's what mesmerizing is the history or treats him as Asura, but the words end of his life is perfect devotee.
Yes.
And Asura is so-called Asura is able to meditate on Krishna at the moment of death. And we, ourselves, at least myself, we call it devotee. We work so hard to have that moment to be able to focus on Krishna at the last moment. And this story is very, heart touching, because all the devotees are involved. Uh, the person who sacrificed life to give the weapon is a devotee. The person who is using the weapon is a devotee. The person who is dying is also devotee. So it's very interesting to hear this past, that orchestration by Krishna.
Yes. So you can see how not everyone is a demon. Even though Vitrasura is an Asura, but he's not a demon. He's actually a pure devotee. And Indra, who is supposed to be such an exalted devotee, sometimes he acts in a wrong way. In a not say wrong way, but in a way that compromises his exaltedness, whereas Vitrasura, he is lauded. He's acting in a very Krishna conscious way, not afraid to die, and ready to even uh, give his body to to the to be used for the battle. So this is something very strange and wonderful to hear. Therefore, we cannot say that all demons are demons, because there are some uh, demons that are born in this world but are actually devotees. And therefore, we have to be very careful to judge a person. They might look like a demon, they might be born in a demoniac family, but they actually are devotees. Therefore, we should be very careful when we uh, brand someone a demon. In this case, Vitrasura was not a demon, although he's an asura, but he was actually a devotee. So we should never judge a person by their looks, but we should judge a person by what they say and what they do. So Vitrasura, he's an asura, but he's actually a devotee. And he's not afraid to die. So here it says, when one possesses material opulence in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increases enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus, one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. So in the purport, it says, as devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Both Indra and Vitrasura were certainly devotees of the Lord. Although Indra took instructions from Vishnu to kill Vitrasura, the Lord was actually more favorable to Vitrasura, because after being killed by Indra's thunderbolt, Vitrasura would go back to Godhead, whereas the victorious Indra would rot in this material world. Because both of them were devotees, the Lord awarded them the respective benedictions they wanted. Vitrasura never wanted material possessions, for he knew very well the nature of such possessions. To accumulate material possessions, one must labor very hard. And when he gets them, he creates many enemies, because this material world is always full of rivalry. If one becomes rich, his friends or relatives are envious. For Ekanta Bhaktas, unalloyed devotees, Krishna therefore never provides material possessions. A devotee sometimes needs some material possessions for preaching, but the possessions of a preacher are not like those of a karmi. A karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but those of a devotee are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to facilitate his devotional activities. Because a devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord, the possessions of a devotee are not to be compared to those of a karmi. This is a very important statement. Very, very important statement.
Which verse number do you read, Maharaj?
And this is Canto 6, Chapter 11, text number 22.
22.
Wonderful statements and wonderful lessons here that we should celebrate today because we heard this.
Mhm.
We have a celebration. Yeah. Okay, are there any questions or comments? Okay, if not, our takeaway for today is a devotee sometimes needs some material possessions for preaching, but the possessions of a preacher are not like those of a karmi. The karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but those of a devotee are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to facilitate his devotional activity. Because a devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord, the possessions of a devotee are not to be compared to those of a karmi. Very, very profound statement.